Thanks, Henry. Some news outlets are talking up the possibility of more trouble this weekend as though their profit margin depended on it, which it does, after their collective disappointment at the lack of any trouble during the week. The usual suspects are still painting the country as a failed state, and it's all Labour's fault, obviously. Keir Starmer has been in charge for all of 10 minutes, and look at the place. It would never have happened under the Tories. Goodness me, no. Why would anybody think that? In other news, the billionaires behind Donald Trump are having a really bad month. It's almost as though those geniuses aren't very smart, and we're about to get a very nice weekend. That and more coming up with me, Nick Abbot, after the new news at 10 on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
I'm not a big fan of his brain.
He's a great guy. He's a good guy. He's a good person.
But he's not a big fan of my brain. Thanks a lot, Donny. You're the best. You're the best, worst person in the world. This weekend, as temperatures are expected to reach 33 degrees centigrade in parts of the country, the UK is said to be hotter than the Sahara Desert. Wherever that is. Temperatures in England and Wales are set to soar in the coming days, with the mercury expected to hit the high 80s and the low 90s during an intense spell of hot weather. Sunday and Monday are expected to be the warmest days. Listeners in Glasgow will get their own weather. I'll check on that while you wait. One moment, please. Locating, please wait. I am waiting. Too blooming long. One moment, please. Aha! What? It's not raining at the moment in Glasgow. Can you believe that?
No.
Neither will it be raining on Saturday or Sunday, but normal service will be resumed on Monday. You'll be delighted to learn it will be raining on Monday, raining on Tuesday, raining on Wednesday, raining on Thursday, raining on Friday, raining on Saturday, raining on... Wow. I can't go on during a brief 3-hour show, but it'll essentially be raining every day for the rest of your lives. For everybody else, forecasters have warned the hot weather might not last, as periods of heavy rainfall are also possible, with thunder, lightning, very, very frightening.
Rock and roll!
Strong winds could also wreak havoc across the country following interference from Storm Debbie, which battered parts of the southern US earlier this week. And I'm sorry, but the name Debbie really doesn't suggest anything that might be dangerous or deadly. Met Office spokesmodel Nikki said, "The hot spell is short-lived but quite intense. Temperatures are due to peak on Monday and rapidly return to average on Tuesday and Wednesday."
Oh, no.
Yeah, only a little blip. And for the young snowflakes who don't understand His Majesty's Fahrenheit and need to be told the temperature in European woke surrender centigrade, then you should get out of our country and go back to where you came from. Ain't that right, Nige?
I'm a nutcase.
Well, yeah, OK, agreed, but that doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about. Shouldn't you be helping the good people of Clacton with their recycling and their potholes? Yeah, sorry, silly me. Nigel's too busy pointing at asylum seekers in hotels from the back seat of his chauffeured limousine and trying desperately to get a selfie with a golf twitler.
Oh, shut up!
But never mind about that. Would you like to hear the long-range forecast for the next 4 weeks?
No.
After the hot spell, cloud and rain and wind. Most of the wet weather will be in the northwest. You bet it will. Longer dry spells further southeast. And then, end of August, beginning of September. Blimey, it's almost autumn. It's practically Jesus' birthday. So, the end of August, beginning of September. Rain in the northwest, but hot spells remain possible in the south. Rain in the northwest, but hot spells remain possible in the south. We'll take it. Now, you know all that talk about white Brits being overrun and about being replaced in our own country, and, well, I know you're going to be stunned by this, but it's not even remotely true.
What?
Yeah, that's just a load of noise thrown out by oily charlatans on the make. And when they're called out on it, they tend to go into a full-on industrial-scale whining mode and complain that their words have been taken out of context simply because they said that they, as in anyone who doesn't look like they do, should go back to their own country, even if they were born here. White Britons are the majority ethnic group in every single one but 15 neighbourhoods in England and Wales. Oddly enough, the Mail was keen to point this out. And it follows a week of violent riots which have plunged Britain into crisis, says the Mail. And I'm not sure that's correct. I mean, it's plunged a few shops into crisis. There's less stock of bath bombs and lavender soap in Lush. And O2 will have to get in some more phones because patriotic Britons decided to upgrade their mobiles for free because they were incensed about immigration. Or something. And there was the library that got wrecked, but the people doing the wrecking didn't mind because they probably don't do much reading. But plunged Britain into crisis? I don't think so. It plunged Britain into taking to the streets to show that there's way more of us decent people than there are those twisted mouth breathers with the swastika tattoos. And it plunged Britain into hysterics. As we watched the blooper reels of men getting a brick to the head thrown by someone on their own side toward the police line they were standing in front of. And then we laughed even harder when he turned to walk away, clutching his skull, only to get a brick to the area. Maybe he won't pass on those genes because of it. Hopefully it's not too late. It could be the shot that saved the nation. And Britain was plunged into laughter by the dog that bit that dope's bottom and wouldn't let go. And the beard-up monster of a bloke who was goading a police line for a fight. And presumably he felt secure enough to do that, knowing that they wouldn't give him one. And one officer pushed him back ever so slightly, and he keeled over like a felled tree. And how we guffawed when those, I suppose they were people, led by that woman with 2 teeth, and a small crowd that looked like an escape from an experimental inbreeding facility, were shouting something totally unintelligible, but I assume was, "We want our country back." Yeah, well, speaking on behalf of 99% of the rest of us, we want our country back from morons like you. Morons who don't contribute. Morons who are antisocial, unhelpful drags on the rest of us. It's not the people coming here who want to work and create and move the country forwards that are the problem. It's the people who are born here that don't want to work and don't care about anyone but themselves and keep us all back that are the problem. You know, if we could keep the immigrants and jettison the brick throwers and the looters and the violent drunks, then this country would be immeasurably improved. I'll give you an example of the state of these people's minds. Before the last election, there was a hulking great bloke being interviewed on TV, and he was whining about people coming over here and taking his job. Couldn't find work, you see. And the problem was migrants, he said. And the interviewer said, "Well, what happens when you apply for a job?" And he said, "Well, I've got a criminal record for assault." And the interviewer said, "You blame immigrants rather than your criminal record?" And he nods and he goes, "Yeah." Some people you just can't reach. Doesn't even occur to him that his own actions might be affecting his life. These people go straight to whining victimhood like they're 3 years old. Turns out he was in prison for sexual assault of a 7-year-old girl, but it's not that that's keeping him out of work, it's the immigrants. You couldn't make it up. And as an aside, absolutely no one from there... Wait. As an aside, absolutely no one from there said that he was a white man. In prison for sexual assault of a 7-year-old girl. Nobody said white man in prison for sexual assault of a 7-year-old girl. They didn't even mention the colour of his skin. But they wouldn't have stopped referring to his skin colour if he wasn't white. So no, I don't think that the riots plunged Britain into crisis. I think it showed us who we are. Way more people turned out on the side of the light than the dark. And if anything, these past weeks have shown us really clearly that the oily charlatans who peddle this hatred for money are not speaking for the silent majority like they say they are. They're just the very loud, shouty minority. There's not very many of them. That's the thing I took from this. I found it heartwarming that good people you would actually like as neighbours, came out and stood against the type of person that you would move house to get away from. And let's not kid ourselves that the oily charlatans talk like they do, point the finger like they do, blame others for their own failings like they do, because they think they can improve the lives of the people of this country. They don't. They're doing it for the money. Money and power. They couldn't care less about you. Not remotely interested in the working man and woman. They wouldn't want to sit next to you on the train. How many times has Nigel Farage been to Clacton, by the way, since he persuaded just enough of their citizens there to vote for him? Shall I assume that the answer is 0? And shall I also assume that he won't be helping out with his constituents' many problems, that he'll be more likely getting driven by chauffeured limousine to the Savoy to give a paid speech to a room full of old white people? I don't know whether that's true. I'm just asking questions. I mean, it's odd that he hasn't denied any of that. I think the people of this country have a right to know. What do you reckon, Nige?
This is absolute tosh.
Yeah, you may think that. I couldn't possibly comment. And this "we're being replaced" idea is echoed by people who either won't work or, like the guy on the telly, can't work because of their own antisocial record. Nobody wants them. And when you look at the areas that feel most aggrieved at being replaced, you'll find that there's barely a non-white face in the area. I mean, look at the place that Nigel managed to convince to vote for him, on the fear that people with dark faces will invade from the beaches. There's loaves of Kingsmill bread that aren't that white. 95% of the people that live in Clacton are British white. 95%. The second largest ethnicity? Irish. Presumably also white. You could go for days wandering aimlessly around Clacton and not see a dark face. Same thing in Ashfield, where that other reformist, Lee Anderson, is an MP. Pretty much the only brown face in that town is the Indian that runs the takeaway in the high street. The hell are they so frightened of? And I know you're not supposed to call people stupid, but if only they met us halfway and stopped doing stupid things, it wouldn't be so hard not to. The reason you're not getting on in life is not because of the people coming in small boats, it's because of the people coming in from Eton. It's that moon-faced creep David Cameron and his tax cuts for the rich and austerity for everybody else.
I think this is nonsense.
That's the problem. It's billionaires that only exist as clouds of mist for tax purposes that are draining the country of its wealth and giving nothing in return. And then patriotically leave the country to spend more time with their money in some hellhole tax haven if they're even so much as asked to contribute to the country that gave them the environment in which they could prosper. Tax, they say. Right, that's it, I'm leaving. The problem is that the wealth that has been created by all of us since the 1970s has gone to a vanishingly small number of spectacularly rich people at the very top of the tree, leaving us to scrabble about in the street for crumbs. And oily charlatans have made a living from distracting us from that truth and encouraging our basest instincts to blame those who don't look like us. And the press that have front-paged their hatred for years, warning us that we're being invaded, we're under attack, they're taking our country, then clutch their hankies and go into a Victorian fainting fit when it's suggested that they may have played a part in the morons' riots. Who, us? They say. Give me an example, they say. Well, there's loads. Too many headlines to read out in a brief 3-hour show. And they deliberately create a fear of being overrun by brown people. And so you get people in towns that are so white you need sunglasses to look at them, shouting online in all caps that they're fed up of being a white minority. And curiously, in places where there are a large number of migrants, the locals do not vote Reform. Look at London. Reform wouldn't stand a chance with their little Englander stuff in London. So they go to where the population is poor and left behind, and they find the people there are easy to convince that their dismal lives are because of immigrants. They don't even see immigrants. They don't even see in their town. It's their fault. The invisible menace, not the fault of 14 years of Tory cuts and even longer of trickle-down economics since Thatcher, gifting huge tax breaks to the rich on the promise that we will all benefit from their wealth. Well, how's that working out for you so far?
Oh, fabulous.
What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Listen to him. He knows everything.
Daryl texts, English Civil War II is going well, no?
No.
No, not really, no. It kind of fizzled out like a damp firework. Martin said, just as I said it would. Did I not say on this show last week that there's way more of us than there are of them? When this country was gripped by the fear that we were going to be up in flames over the course of this week, and nothing happened. The only thing that happened was it made my heart sore seeing all of those people come out on the side of the light, vastly outnumbering the mouth-breathing knuckle-draggers from the dark side. Martin says, anybody remember a Rwanda scheme? Let's not let it go to waste. Why don't we send the rioters and the looters there to serve out their sentences? After all, it's a safe country, and I feel confident that we won't get any lefty lawyers getting in the way this time. Well, it's the nature of the business that lefty lawyers probably will get in the way. By which I mean do their job. And Ahmed says, Nigel Farage fans the flames of all these racial fires, then puts his hand up and says stuff like, I'm just asking questions. Yeah, he's just asking questions. He's just curious. He can't believe the public fall for this Man of the People Act, says Ahmed. I can't believe the public fall for that Man of the People Act either. I mean, it's so transparently phony to me. All of that, a pint and a fag and a flat hat, do me a favour. That's not who he is. He's a public school boy, born to privilege, who was a trader in the city. He's not your mate down the pub. He's the fella at the Savoy with the glass of champagne. People fall for it all the time. Gullible, that's what he relies on. Gullibility. Chingford, hello, John.
Oh, hi, Nick. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, John.
Yeah, I mean, what a difference a week makes.
I know.
So, I mean...
24 little hours. Sing!
Yeah. I mean, suppose they planned a riot and nobody came, you know.
Yeah.
It's, but the progressive left, I mean, you know, the other side have got the drunks, but they've got the numbers, you know.
The progressive left?
Well, I mean, the progressive, you know, the people who went on the streets and, you know, I presume most of them are, well, they're certainly, you know, I think they are mainly of the left, I would have thought.
Well, I'm not... I don't think it comes down to political lines here. I think it comes down to people from the light and people from the dark. And the people from the dark are vastly outnumbered by the people from the light. And they're not more powerful than we are. And all we have to do is to stand up to them and they just shrink away.
Yeah, I mean, when they were just, you know, just all that rioting and everything, you thought, God, these people are in the majority because there were just so many of them.
They just shout louder, that's all.
Yeah.
They always have. In order to cover up their dwindling numbers, they just shout the loudest. And so ordinary decent people are cowed by people yelling because you just want to get away from somebody who's yelling, right? Anybody over the age of about 2 years old, if somebody starts yelling in the street, you just want to get away from them. You are fearful of what they might do because they appear to be completely unhinged and don't have any like sort of personal barriers.
No, I mean it's you know, been very. I mean, Wednesday was just so encouraging, really.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not Starmer Chameleon's greatest fan, but I mean, I think his handling of the situation was very good. I mean, the
Starmer Chameleon.
Well, I'm not his greatest fan.
Where did you get? Hang on a minute. Where did you get that phrase from? As in,
I made it up.
No, you did not. As in Karma Chameleon. As in Boy George.
Rock and roll!
You did not make that up.
I did make it up.
I very much doubt that is true, John.
Oh, well,
Starmer,
we were getting on so well.
Starmer, let's not get carried away. Starmer Chameleon. Okay, hands up who thinks that guy made that up. No, hands up who don't. Well, that's overwhelming. I think the decision has been made, John.
What?
Yes, guilty.
Can I carry on?
Okay, for a brief period only.
For a brief period only. I think this facial recognition and the sentencing was very, very good.
Right.
I think he acted very... I'm warming much more, especially also the fact he's taken in a rescue cat. Jojo the cat is a rescue cat. That's endeared to me very much as well. But...
hang on a minute.
Yeah,
back up.
The only thing
Wait. Hello?
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 Hello? I'm here.
Is there anybody there?
Hello.
Yes?
I'm here.
Who's on the line?
It's John. John from Chingford.
Is Vic there? John, you said something about a cat. Have I missed a major story? Has Keir Starmer taken in a cat?
No, Jojo the cat. The Starmer family pet is Jojo the cat, and he's a rescue cat. He's not a designer cat or like Penny Morden's Burmese cat or a hypoallergenic cat or what have you. He's a rescue cat, so it's really...
Hypoallergenic cat? There can't possibly be any such thing as a hypoallergenic cat.
Oh, ask Jan from Tooting. She'll fill you on that one.
Most certainly will do nothing of the sort. Holy macaroni, there's more. All right, go on.
Yeah, okay, two more things. One is that I think the sentences, considering, people trying to burn down a hotel with...
Yeah.
People in the hotel, as opposed to the just stop oil. 2 years for trying to burn down a hotel and
ridiculous.
5 years for, and I thought that's it. Also, finally...
And in closing,
sorry, so long this conversation we've ever had. I've been dragged off this show more times than a fifth-rate comic at the Glasgow Empire. But Uncle Jez was on the TV today, and he looked very, very... No, but he's had a makeover. His hair and beard are really tiny. He looked very tanned. He had a very trendy pair of glasses on and a very, very trendy button-down shirt. He's really obviously had a makeover. I'm very impressed.
Well, I think
that's me done.
I think you need a stylist intervention. Button-down shirts are not very trendy and haven't been so since the 19...
he had was. It looked like it was Oxford linen, anyway.
Haven't been trendy since the 1950s. What are you talking about?
Well, I'm 78 years old.
He's 78 years old. He don't know nothing about clothing. All right, excellent work there, John. You want to get educated about your fashion. I'm going to have to look that up, that picture of Uncle Jezza. Of course, if I type in Uncle Jezza, the internet won't know what I'm talking about. Let's just try it and see. No, it's an actual Uncle Jezza. That's not what I'm looking for at all. So I'm going to look up Jeremy Corbyn, see what he looks like these days. Maybe he looks fabulous. Has he been consulting a stylist? Adam says, we currently have the best qualified person as Prime Minister to deal with the current upheaval, and boy, is he delivering. He is the antithesis to Bodger Johnson.
I can't comment on that.
Yeah. Who was the worst qualified person at the time? At the worst time. Shall I read that sentence again?
No.
Imagine he was still Prime Minister by now. He would have skipped 5 Cobra meetings, gone on holiday, advised his ministers to let the riots rip through the nation and minorities to take it on the chin. Yeah. Yes. God, what would the previous incarnation, any of the previous incarnations have done about all of this? They wouldn't have actually done anything about it. They'd have just gaslit the public, blamed it all on boat people, and they'd all be on holiday right now. Yeah. It's exactly what they would have done. It is refreshing, isn't it? I mean, almost every day when I see Keir Starmer or some representative of the Labour government, it's like, oh, yeah. In that manner, we've walked into the light as well. I do feel that all over the world, somebody opened the door to darkness And a lot of countries are rejecting it, whereas previously they might have walked straight through. I mean, America had a dalliance with darkness.
The American dream is dead.
And they appear, I mean, anything could happen in the next, where are we? Next couple of months. 3 months. But they appear to have quietly closed the door to darkness and are heading towards the light. I'll talk about that in a while as well. 0345 6060 973. Mark says, glad to see that Donny's campaign to win over the press and the public is going well. As that left-wing rag, the Wall Street Journal, said that Trump rallies are full of impulsive ramblings and Harris should definitely question his cognitive functions, as this week he was still saying that there was a peaceful transfer of power in 2021. He does seem like as though somebody has pricked his balloon. He is deflating rapidly. And he's not getting any better. He's not becoming a nicer person. I think that ship sailed and sunk. There's absolutely no possibility of him becoming a nice person anytime soon. He's just going to get nastier and more twisted as the weeks go on, and his polling numbers take a nosedive as they. That's my prediction, that they certainly will. And he's just not going to come out. He's going to be sitting there with steam coming out his ears in one of his gaudy golf clubs and refusing to come out of the locker room because he's going to have his giant orange bottom handed to him by a black lady. James says, what would happen if it didn't rain? I live up north. The weather really does not bother me, says James. What would happen if it didn't rain? Well, you wouldn't get wet. Am I missing something? But almost certainly. 0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 10:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
0345 6060 973. This is the first time I've spoken today, and it doesn't sound like I've recovered from what I had about a month or so ago. Whatever that was. It's still around. Not that I'm complaining or anything.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Ealing. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
All right, thanks.
Nick, you may remember last week we spoke about the 4 big London Trust hospitals that dealt with stabbings for young men. Mm-hmm. Can you remember that?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Well, this time I'd like to say that there has been some reports on the news that tomorrow may kick off again, as in rioters. Now, I sincerely hope not, but I sincerely don't think that that will be the case, given the fact that there has been so much publicity given to the people who have been reported and, in fact, sentenced. I don't think that will occur at all. What's your view on that?
You're asking me if I think there's going to be riots tomorrow?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I think that they'll probably have the same results they had on Wednesday. Some moron, mouth-breathing knuckle-draggers will go out and try to kick off for no other reason than it is... wait a minute. For no other reason than it is fun. Let's not kid ourselves. That's why they're doing it. It's fun and exciting. Yes. And I think that the response will be equal and... at least they're equal and greater than that, and they'll get put back in their box.
Maybe there are some young men that just want a good old punch-up. But somehow, given the publicity recently, I do not think that tomorrow will kick off that same way. I really don't. Because of the sentencing that has gone on today. Right. I really don't.
OK, well, thanks for letting us know there, Brian. He's got a feeling. James says, what would happen if it didn't... Oh, I've read that one already. What would happen if it didn't rain? You wouldn't get wet. Tariq says, they should consider sending these convicted patriotic thugs to the Falkland Islands, but I don't worry about the local penguins. It's not just my voice that there's a problem with. I think my brain is having issues as well. Ain't that right, Donny?
I'm not a big fan of his brain.
No. Russell says, I live in London. Do you really think I'm rich? You must be lived on different planet. Living in London is far more expensive. I've got no money for anything and I work hard and earn good money. Hey, Russell, can I interest you in some punctuation?
No.
Shall I read that again?
No.
Russell says, I live in London. Do you really think I'm rich? You must be lived on different planet. Living in London is far more expensive. I've got no money for anything and I work hard and earn good money. Says Russell. Apropos of what? When did I ever say that people living in London were rich? Which show are you listening to? And I'm not lived on another planet. I'm lived on this one. And I know London is very, very expensive, and people, even on medium incomes, ain't got no money, and they work hard, and they earn good dosh. But it doesn't go as far as it used to. Why? Because of the reasons that I've previously given. The reason you can't afford anything is because of corporations profiteering, from the problems that we've just been going through these last few years. Something of the order of half the amount of inflation that we have suffered over the past couple of years has been caused by about 95 corporations profiteering, taking advantage of us in our moment of desperation and need, and making billions and billions and billions of pounds in free money, as in cash that they didn't think that they were going to get. And they reward themselves for excellence in being lucky by pouring that cash all over themselves, all over their upturned, expectant faces. That's the reason why people struggle now on decent jobs and can't even possibly contemplate the idea of living the same kind of lifestyle that people in decades past who used to do those very same jobs could afford. Like being a GP, for instance. Being a GP, you could... people would be able to afford a house and a car for themselves, a car for their other half who wouldn't go to work. They'd stay at home, take care of the kids, do the housework and all that. And they'd go on holiday and they'd be comfortably well off. You remember that? It's what your parents had. So why are people running frantically to stay in the same place? You're not getting anywhere. It's not people arriving in small boats, it's people coming out of Eton. That's the problem. Successive governments giving tax cuts for millionaires and calling it trickle-down economics, as in Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush.
Absolutely.
All of those people. They lied and they lied and they lied. Well, give tax cuts to millionaires and it'll be good for everybody, because their wealth will cascade down all over the little people, not leprechauns. That's the reason why, Russell, that you live in London. And London is far more expensive and you've got no money for anything and you work hard and you earn good money, says Russell. Jazz says, Nick, did you see Snoop Dogg opening up the women's breakdancing event at the Olympics? No, I didn't, but I'm definitely going to look that up later. I saw him dancing with a horse, or more accurately, dancing for a horse. I haven't seen very much of his shenanigans at the Olympics, but I think that whoever came up with that idea of sending Snoopy Dog to the Olympics is a raving genius. You know, it's increased the listenership, the viewership rather, in America among the young by a factor of 2. They've doubled their audience just by getting Snoopy Dog to go over there and, do his thing. What a brilliant idea. Dulwich, hello, Tom.
Oh, evening, Nick, mate. Oh, mate, where do we start here?
Start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start.
So just a quick little throwback. So back to the election, right? The first thing I said after that election was, I know this is great. Labour pulled off a blinder because I sort of looked at Starmer and I was like, I don't think he's on top of the world in terms of popularity, but I feel like he's going to pull it off. And he did. Admittedly, the vote share wasn't great, but it doesn't have to be, does it? You know what I mean? Like, he knew what he was playing at. He knew his arena.
Yep.
But I took away from Reform's seat gain. I know the vote share was pretty much more or less the same. It's the same voices. It's always has been. But
yeah.
I looked at those voices and went, at least this time around, they've actually probably cottoned on a little bit as to how to get people elected. You know, like, they're kind of trying to play the game. I know it was 5 seats. It wasn't a massive victory, but Farage is very capable of turning that into a massive victory and weaponising it. So after that election, I thought maybe from this election, to maybe stop that progressing, we should probably take some concerns of Reform voters into consideration, maybe, right? But, do you know, since then, I also said, I was like, if we don't, there's going to be chaos. I didn't predict these riots. I didn't predict when it would happen, but I thought there would be some sort of, something bad, something just loud and noisy. And that has happened. And don't get me wrong, at the start of this, I was like, right, I didn't want this to happen. Maybe some of these people aren't bad. Maybe they should be listened to. But, you know, as I've gone on, Starmer's kind of done his kind of election thing to me. I didn't necessarily think what he did at the start of this was the best idea. I thought the people that he's sort of talking about will weaponise this and maybe get people more angry. But I'm looking at it now and I think he's played a bit of a blinder with this. I think he has done well. Maybe not necessarily all he's doing again. I think the actual far right are very small in number and the rest of them were, as you've said, opportunist criminals. You know, they wanted a row, they wanted a fight. That's what's caused the majority of the noise, in my view. And the actual die-hard far-right racists are very, very small and, frankly, these days cowardly in number. And I do think Starmer's response... I mean, one of the favourite things I've heard throughout this was, I think it was Farage or someone said, Keir Starmer has absolutely no idea about prosecutions. And the first thing I said was, this guy used to run prosecutions in his country. Like, you can say what you like about him, but you can't say that about the guy. He is very, very aware of prosecutions.
Yeah,
like,
well,
my God.
Farage is taking a lot of his cues and his tips from Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's reaction to anybody that poses any kind of threat to him is to call them stupid and they're morons and they're dirt bags and they're bums and, like a child. And so if you worship a man like Trump, as Nigel Farage appears to do, then some of that is going to rub off on you. And Donald Trump is standing up on his, as well as he can, because if you've seen him from the side as he stands, it's a very, very bizarre look. I think his people have put lifts under his toes to sort of recalibrate him because he leans forward. His giant gut is cantilevered out over his shoes. It's a miracle that he can actually stand up straight at that angle at all.
The thing is, I don't know if you'd agree with me on this, but do you not think like the likes of Farage and Trump, they've had a sort of good run of making a lot of noise recently, but I feel like in the last couple of weeks, especially with the Kamala boost and, now that Sleepy Joe's gone, I'm not part of that nonsense brigade, but, now that he's gone, like, I was a bit like of the same view as you. I thought that election was done the second that debate with Biden and Trump was gone. But then after that, I was like, maybe not. Admittedly, I think as well, I think we have legitimately been brainwashed because when they announced Kamala, my first reaction was, that's probably not a good idea. But that's only because of the noise. And then after about a week or so, I was like, oh no, maybe this isn't a sole election. Like maybe this is going to go okay. Maybe there is still hope. And I'm seeing that with Farage. Like Farage.
Hope. There it is. There's that word, Tom. I'm going to stop you right there. Hope. That's the word I'm looking for. And I'll repeat what I said just moments ago. It feels like that somebody turned the light on. It feels like somebody opened the window and they opened the curtains and the light and the fresh air is coming in, where previously we only were experiencing stale, fetid air and the dark. And it feels actually great. It feels like the entire human race has just turned a corner.
So good, mate, honestly. And I wouldn't say I saw this coming at all. I'm gobsmacked with how quick the turnaround of hope has happened. Like, Farage is good at making noise, but even his ilk, like people that supported him initially that have gone a bit further to the right, are now calling him out on the internet. I'm not seeing Starmer call him out, and I love that because people that supported him are doing that for him. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes. It's beautiful to watch the right do what the left have done for the last 14 years.
It is. It's about blooming time. That's right. Okay, good to talk to you, Tom. Thanks for that. Yeah, the Nigel Farage was he had a story written up about him in the Express. Now, you would think that the Express would be a Nigel Farage fan club up and down. And this story ends on a poll. Now, the last time I looked at that poll was 4 o'clock this afternoon. I wonder if I should take a peek again. No, I can't be bothered. That would constitute homework. In fact, I'll take a small break, and then I'll come back and tell you what the Express has said, which is, I don't know. I think there's a lot of right-wingers who are running away at the moment because they got their moment, And it looks like they comprehensively, totally and completely blew it. In the same way that right-wingers got their moment with the Liz bot.
Absolutely.
And she totally screwed it up for them within about 10 seconds. She screwed up her job quicker than it took her to put her knees under the desk at number 10. She was out so fast it made her head spin. I think it's still spinning now. That would certainly account for the look on her face, that sort of gormless expression that she manages to fashion regardless of where she is or what she's doing. She looks like she's permanently stunned. Maybe she hasn't got used to the fact that she's lost her job. But they had their chance, didn't they? All these weird wonks in Tufton Street, all of these bizarre, opaquely funded so-called think tanks, which are just lobby groups for the world's handful of oddball billionaires, whose only desire in life is more money and power. I mean, how bizarre. What a weird bunch they are. And they're the same people who are pouring money behind Donald Trump. And they're the same people who poured money into getting us to leave the European Union. And they're the same people who practically wrote Liz Truss's How to Be a Prime Minister guide. And she did precisely what they wanted. And the market had a collective cow. You know, the left-wing woke market had a cow and thought, this woman's insane. We're not going to do business with her country anymore. And she had to be corrected, as in exited. And so it seems, though, all of these weirdo billionaire supremacist nuts have had their opportunity again and again. The thing that they've been dreaming of for decades. They got Donald Trump, and he was a catastrophic failure on every count. On a human being, as a human being, apart from anything else, never mind about economics and all of the economic measures that were an indicator of his worth as a prime minister were at most just a continuation of where the economy was going under Obakarama, and at worst dismally awful for anybody who wasn't one of his billionaire backers. Trillions of dollars he gave away in tax cuts for the super rich. And it looks like he's going to fail. He failed the last time. It looks like he's going to be a two-time failure. And so they had their chance running this country, and they screwed it up. And the weirdo handful of billionaire nut jobs have had the chance in running America, and they're screwing it up. And so it seems like they're getting everything they want, and everything they want is failing. It's almost as though they're not that bright. Who would have thunk it? To look at them. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Everything is going extremely well.
You bet your life it is. 0345 6060 973. Sean says the Tories have fooled the working class who blame immigrants. Thank goodness they didn't fool the rest of us. Well, that's a bit of a bold statement. They fooled the working class. What does blow my mind is that, particularly recently, in the last decade or so, the working class have been more likely to vote Conservative than the middle class. Riddle me that, I double dare you. Claire texts, I share your joy at the counter-protests. The highlight for me was the picture of a sea of people, a square in the middle, a protester holding a placard with "Fascists just bleep off. I did nearly lose my coffee. It really made me swell with pride a bit," says Chris. Rochester, hello, Lulu.
Oh, Nick, hello, darling.
Lulu,
how are you?
I am great, mate.
Oh, it's lovely to speak to you. So I've got a negative and a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Shall I start with a negative?
Yes, let's get that out of the way.
Let's get that out of the way. So I really loathe Robert Jenrick. Isn't he just the most hideous little podgy doughboy? I mean, what is he playing at? You know what he said this week? You know what I'm referring to, don't you? Do you?
Well, which bit?
Oh, anyone who says Allahu Akbar should be imprisoned.
Oh, right.
stupid little man. I mean,
what I don't really get with the Tories is that they can't quite get used to the idea that the public have rejected them.
Exactly.
Because they feel with every fibre of their being that they have been born to rule, and they can't quite understand or bring themselves to accept that the public have rejected them. It's as though we've made a mistake, and they think if only they can do more of what we rejected, then we'll accept them again.
Yeah, it's insane. And he wants to be leader, so...
Yeah, well, I would encourage them to choose him, or Kemi, or Sweller, or any of those people.
They're all hideous people, and if they select any of those people, they will be in opposition for eternity, so I'm happy with that.
I think that they may not be hideous people if you speak to them individually, but it appears as though they have decided that the way to success is to be as unpleasant as they possibly can. Because they think that that's who we want. That's what we're looking for. But it's not. I'll do this, the light and the dark thing again, because I don't think it's necessarily between left and right very much anymore, because that is how they, people like the Tories, like to divide us. It doesn't matter what the issue is. If you are on the right, you think this about this issue. You know, be it wokey, cokey, or any of these kind of things. You don't have to do your thinking about any issue. We'll do your thinking for you and tell you what to think, and that is pretty much how it's been for as long as I can recall now.
Yeah.
But we the people, are rejecting the darkness. I think that we're moving into the light, and I think it's happening in America. I mean, the excitement about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable how things have turned around there.
Absolutely. And, when we saw this week on Wednesday night, when we were supposed to have this massive, demo of anti-immigration, and, the people that turned out to reject that, we are the majority.
Exactly.
Us decent people. And it's just like, how stupid you have to be to keep perpetuating this hideous myth that, foreigners are bad, just to try and appeal to this small rump of racist, ignorant people, and it is really tiny. I mean, it's not obviously all of the people that voted for reform. I mean, it's not 14%. It's not 14% of the people. Not even close. It's maybe 1% of those 14% who would even contemplate going out and throwing a brick through a library window. And 1% of that 1% actually would go out, and the rest would think better of it. So we're talking about such a vanishingly small number of people, but they shout so loudly. Exactly. I was saying this tonight to my friend. The majority of the people in this country are good people, but we don't hear from them necessarily enough. We hear from these, this rump of troglodytes who are, and they don't even know what they're rioting against. They don't like foreigners, but you know what? I'm going to raid a Greg's and get a steak bake. They're just pathetic people. You can't take them seriously, right?
I'm going to go and nick a pair of Crocs because I'm upset about the small boats. Right.
Oh, that'll make it better. Yeah, and so to the positive, you alluded to, because let's end on a high note.
Yes.
Because I'm love and light. I don't like to hate people, but I do hate generate. Anyway, but whatever. So I want to
even with his new haircut and his new suit, and he seems to have lost a bit of weight. He seems to have gone through some sort of stylist's
he's had a makeover.
Wardrobe. Yeah, he has. Yeah.
Yeah, but
But he's still him inside.
He's still a repulsive person. So, yes, I just want to say, I phoned you the other week and I was raving about Kamala. I just want to rave about Tim. I love Tim. What a delight.
Everything I've seen about him makes me like him more.
I want him to be my dad. He's just fantastic. And I tell you what, she's played a blinder here because he is going to appeal to these Midwest people. He's like an ordinary guy.
Yes.
And I'm loving the spiralling death fall of Trump's campaign. I mean, they are so desperate, these people. I mean, they're trying to, smear him because he put sanitary products in schools. Oh, my God, that's awful, isn't it? And calling him Tampon Tim. I mean, are these people 12?
Yes.
They're just pathetic.
Yes, they are. Well, Donald Trump has got the mind of a 12-year-old.
Oh.
And he throws a temper tantrum like a child. He is a child. He's a child in a great big doughy orange body. And
totally.
it was as though he was on a route to success. The moment that the bullet left the gun from that kid who was on the roof at one of his rallies, and it hit the teleprompter in front of him, and a tiny piece of glass nicked his ear ever so slightly, and he did that manly thing where he punched the air. And then there was that picture with the flag in the background. At that second, I thought, well, that's it, game's over.
Yeah,
and then
same.
fast forward to now, and everything has been turned upside down, including poor Donny's life.
Oh, shut up!
Yeah. And I'm loving it. I'm living for it. And I tell you what, it's a breath of fresh air, isn't it, to have adult people, sensible people,
isn't it?
You know, who want to actually help the American people and not just want to aggrandize themselves.
Help the people of this country. It seems extraordinary every time I hear one of the current governments speak that they're actually talking like real human beings and not like robots who have learned a script backstage before coming out and just repeating it over and over.
Affirmative.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
in a like an automaton.
I know.
Yes, Chris Philp, I'm talking about you. Lulu, gotta go. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Yeah! Dude! Nobody knows who the hell he is.
See, the force of darkness. Okay, here's the thing in the Express about Nigel Farage, which did not take the kind of tone that I thought that they would. Maybe people are just edging away from, certain individuals. Unrest and violence has erupted across the UK over the past week following the killings of 3 young girls in Southport. Far-right rioters have attacked police, looted shops and chanted racist abuse in shocking scenes in cities and towns across Britain. Following the Southport attack, which saw several others injured, misinformation was rife across social media, with false speculation surrounding the attacker's migration status and religion. One of those to speculate in the wake of the attack was Nigel Farage. You believe that?
Yes.
Who, in a video posted to Twitter, said, "I just wonder whether the truth is being withheld from us. Something is going horribly wrong in our once beautiful country. I just wonder whether the truth is being withheld from us." Yeah, well, maybe Nigel Farage is made entirely of month-old cheese. Now, he hasn't denied that. I'm just asking the question whether it's true or not. He also questioned why the attack was being treated as a non-terror incident. Later speaking on this station, he said, "What happened in Southport would not have been of the same magnitude had the truth been told very, very quickly." Oh, get lost. He said people like Andy McDonald from the Labour Party, Anna Soubry, former Conservative Party MP, and broadcasters like James O'Brien on LBC are calling these Farage's riots. People are saying, "I've been orchestrating, organising and encouraging the riots. Nothing could be further from the truth." Yeah, there's plenty of things that could be further from the truth. Like the moon's a balloon. That could be further from the truth. He went on to blame the lack of information after the incident for the unrest. He said, "One of the reasons Southport riots were as bad as they were, one of the reasons the mosque itself was targeted is because the authorities didn't tell us quickly enough what the truth was." What he means by that is he tweeted out something that wasn't true. He also added his question as to whether he was on a watch list still hasn't been answered. So, says the Express, should Nigel Farage take any blame for the recent riots? Vote in our poll and have your say in the comments. If you can't see the poll, click here. Not here, but there. And the Express online poll, I've just looked it up. Question, should Nigel Farage take any blame for the recent riots? Now, keep in mind that this is the Express, so you'd think they'd be in his corner, kind of writing this up as though they aren't, trying to distance themselves from him. Should Nigel Farage take any blame for the recent riots? People who read the Express say yes, 69%. What? 69% of the people responding to the Express online poll, 69% said yes, Nigel Farage should take blame or some blame for the recent riots. Only 31% said no. And that's 100% mass fans who expressed a preference. I am stunned. I bet they're pretty stunned too. Might make them think twice about putting up an online poll. But, the people have spoken. If you don't like the result of the poll, then, you should get out of our country. That's democracy, that is. Tristan says, the last government would have dealt with the riots by blaming the police for letting them get out of control before axing another 20,000 officers. Well, they would have probably blamed the Labour Party for being soft on crime. That's exactly what they would have done. I mean, can you just... It's hard to believe the parade of ghouls and inadequates that we used to get on our TV screens sent out by the government on a daily basis. I mean, just think of them all right now. All of those faces, all of those horrible, twisted people. It's just spewing hatred and bile all over our television sets. Can you believe that? And they're gone now. I mean, many of them are scrabbling around trying to use their expertise to get themselves another job. Some of them, by some bizarre fluke, managed to cling on to their jobs as MPs. But they're not bothering us anymore. It's not just one after the other. It's like, oh, God, here's Pretty, here's Suella, here's Robert, and here's, Fishy.
This government...
Him. He was seen coming out of a restaurant, eating food while this country burns. Can you believe that? I'll get to that in a minute as well. 0345. But, I mean, am I wrong about the light? I mean, can you imagine that? It's like the Addams family, one after the other. If this government spokesperson hasn't appalled you enough to put you off your dinner, here's another one. Oh, look, we found another one behind a curtain. And none of them seemed to reflect who we were. But it's almost as though we were beaten into submission. Oh, no, oh, yeah, OK, that's who we are, Brits. Sweller and Pretty and... God, all of that lot. It kind of turns my stomach just to remember them. And once in a while, one of them will pop up on TV. And I know I've mentioned this before, but my initial reaction is, are you still speaking? Still? 0345 6060 973. Merthyr Tydfil. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing, Nick?
Good, thanks.
From the quiet valley overlooking England, which guess where I was having a wonderful pint.
Overlooking England? Well, you're keeping your eye on us.
Yes, from the Goose and Cuckoo.
Oh.
The Goose and Cuckoo, you can see the 70 miles. You can see the Malverns.
Yeah.
It's fabulous view. And the Wheeling Swifts and House Martins.
Mm-hmm.
And
Flora and fauna, yeah.
Perfect peace, Nick. And England descended into the darkness.
Yeah.
And now you're just coming out into the light.
No, we bounced out of the dark on Wednesday. We thought we were going to be subsumed by it, but we flew above it like we had wings.
Exactly. And so it's good news, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know. But at the end of the day, no problems in Wales, no problems in Scotland. Is it an English disease?
Yeah, well, being a little Englander is an English disease, yeah. I mean, there are little Welshers and little Scots as well, but they're not as numerous as a percentage of the population, I don't believe, no.
Okay. I've also got some good news for you from Wales. You always like to get the news, don't
yes.
you? Mm-hmm. The 20 mile an hour speed limit, which has been enforced now for 6 months, is it, or 8 months, has resulted in a massive reduction in deaths, accidents, and injury.
Right.
In Wales.
Yeah.
So those people who spend their time rioting about 20 miles an hour speed limits are entirely
incorrect. Yeah. I mean, okay, people don't like it because, when people get into a car, they get these sort of tough guy feelings. I can control something that's like a raging beast with just the end of my foot. That's how tough I am. And they don't like it when they're asked to drive in a way that is more pleasant to live around. Because when they get out of their car, they're just like everybody else, pedestrians. They live on these roads, and there's absolutely no doubt at all. It's unquestionable, that living in an area where people are doing 20 is so much nicer than living in an area, or just walking down the road, where people are doing 30, 40 miles an hour. So people just stop whining and get used to it, for crying out loud.
Well, the guy who proposed or made a mountain out of it was a guy called Andrew R.T. Davis, leader of the Welsh Conservatives in the Assembly.
Of course.
And they have made some political headway on it.
Right. Because they can't think of anything else. They got nothing but negative.
Yeah, well, some good news for you. He's got himself into some real problems because he's made racist remarks.
Oh, well, I am shocked.
And there is, so I can gather, a movement within the Welsh Conservative Party to unseat him. He's also made a number of comments about whether or not we should abolish the Welsh Assembly. And these things are all building up to a serious problem. So that's some good news for you.
All right.
England is coming into the light.
Yeah.
The Conservatives are in serious problems in Wales, and everything is looking brighter for you.
And the Goose and Cuckoo is still fully stocked with booze. Yeah. All right, good to hear. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Every day and every way it's getting better and better. Jay says, just because we didn't have the level of protest that were expected doesn't mean that peace and tranquility has broken out. The people that harbour these beliefs are still there, bubbling under the surface. Do we really think that these angry demonstrations won't happen again? Yeah, of course they'll happen again. And if it's not about this issue, it's about some other issue. People are like bubbling pots. Every now and again, the lid pops off and the steam comes out. But it doesn't mean to say it's the end of the country. It doesn't mean to say it's the end of our way of life. It doesn't mean to say they're right, just because they're louder and they've got bricks in their hands. There's way more of us than there are of them, Jay. You're just peddling fear again. Oh, it might be, we managed to get through that, but it might be all disastrous in the future. Can't live your life like that. To hell with these people. Di says, no, it's Prince Harry's fault. No, though no doubt Meghan is behind it all. Yeah, thanks a lot, Meghan Markle. You see what you've done? 0345 6060 973. I haven't done this in a while. I haven't looked at the Mail Online and counted how many royal stories about Meghan Markle there are. I'll do it right now while you wait. Here we go. Well, the first royal story is about Casey Price. It can't be. UK riots. King Charles encouraged by the way Britain has countered aggression from racist thugs. King Charles? Why did the Prime Minister feel it was necessary to go to update King Charles on the riots? I mean, what's Charles going to do about it? I don't think he's very interested in anything that doesn't come with something ridiculous from a dressing up box. I mean, he does like, putting on the clobber, doesn't he? I think that's where his interest in the job starts and ends. Oh, God. Boris Johnson's written a column in the Mail. Really? Reflect on Labour's stupidity, he said, with a picture of the riots. Oh, is anybody remotely interested in what that man has got to say?
No.
And yet he's still saying it. Still phoning it in. Mr. Blobby.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Still under the illusion that we're interested in what he has to say. Got to be kidding me. No stories about Meghan so far. I've scrolled quite the way down. Wow, they really are slipping over at the Mail. Down and down and deeper and down like status quo. And this is the Royals section, but there's nothing there. Maybe I've got the wrong... Oh, here we go. Ah, that's right. User error. Here we go. Charles seethed at photos of his mother with her hands in her pockets. Yeah, he's blaming the photographers for taking a picture of his mum with her hands in her pockets. Well, is it not his mother's fault for putting her hands in her pockets? If she didn't, then they wouldn't take a picture of her like that. From pretzel to perfection, how Princess Beatrice transformed her style. Oh, do me a favour. This is just all so silly, I can't bear it. What a ridiculous country this is. Kings and queens and princes and princesses and baronesses and baronets and majesties. God, it's all so ridiculous. Anyway, 0345 6060 973 LBC.
This is LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
This is preposterous.
0345 6060 973. Let's have Carnforth. Hey, Penny.
Hey, Nick. How you doing?
Great, mate.
Good. I was just going to talk about that ridiculous interview Tom Swarbrick did with... I mean, I don't mean Tom Swarbrick was ridiculous. I mean, Nigel Farage was absolutely ridiculous during that.
Whining and whining and whining.
Stop whining.
Like, I haven't been whipping up hatred against immigrants and Muslims for the last 20 years. And there were reports. He said I wasn't passing on misinformation. There were reports.
He was just asking questions. Yeah.
Yes. And so Tom said, well, what reports? And he said, well, Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate.
Really? Andrew Tate?
I know. I picked up a piece of paper on a bus and it had it written on there. So, these are sources. Yeah.
Yes, Andrew Tate. Does anybody take him seriously?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sex trafficker and
quite a few people do. Yeah. Alleged, I think you want to put in there.
Well, yes, alleged. Yes, an extreme purveyor of misogyny.
And BS.
Yes, I mean, really. I mean, that was the best he could come up with. And then he said, Tom said something about him to, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was to do with purveying, being partially not responsible, but adding to, the...
Yeah. I mean, he filmed himself being driven around in a chauffeur-driven limousine, pretending to book into hotels that he knew he couldn't book into because they were being used by the government to house asylum seekers. And so he wanders self-importantly into the lobby and asks if he can, have a look around. And the security there, of course, don't really want him to do that because it's a hotel. You can't just wander about the place. And he was trying to... essentially he was pointing at hotels saying they're in there.
Yes, and also, I mean, they're not the kind of hotels that Nigel Farage would ever stay in.
God, no.
No, and also, he was saying, I've never had anything to do with the far right or violence. And he said, I got rid of the BNP. And I was thinking, yes, Nigel, you did get rid of the BNP. Yeah. You replaced them.
Exactly.
You are the BNP in a suit with a posh accent and a slightly toned-down language. Because one of the things he said was about... this person was an active Muslim. Now, what on earth does that mean? I think that's obviously code for Islamist terrorist.
Yeah, well, he's got...
But see, this is how he gets away with whipping up all his hatred, because he's not as, in your face as the BNP or the EDL.
No.
He keeps it toned down a bit, and he wears a suit, and he looks respectable and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And so people are really taken in by him, but he's just the same as them. It's the same ideology. I think he's really dangerous in that way, because he has this air of sort of respectability, whereas obviously the kind of people who were rioting definitely don't.
I mean, if you've got
And
a
Tommy
swastika,
Robinson doesn't.
if you've got a swastika tattooed on your forehead, then there's only a limited number of people who will listen to you. But if you went to a public school and you've got a nice suit and a tie on, then that's not necessarily the case. You'll get more of an audience.
That's absolutely right. And there's something else I wanted to mention as well. These sentences that these rioters, race rioters, let's call them what they were, because that's one thing that Keir Starmer, that he called them far-right thugs, and most of the media were not mentioning the word racist or race, because really they were race riots. That's exactly what they were. They were against anybody that was brown or black skin.
I mean, I would go one further. I would go terrorist. I mean, if you set fire to a hotel with the order or with the intention of terrorising a population for political ends, that is the definition of terrorism. So how come these people aren't facing, forever in jail?
Exactly. Well, I mean, that could have been mass murder. I mean, it could have, the whole hotel could have gone up in flames. Yes, no, I don't understand this. And the irony is, or the not irony, but it's just ridiculousness, is that peaceful environmental protesters have just got 5 years and 4 years respectively for a Zoom meeting, and then some others have just been arrested yesterday, 22 of them, haven't they, for planning a sort of protest camp outside Drax power station in North Yorkshire. So I expect they'll be getting 4 and 5 years for planning a peaceful protest.
Well, we don't know, because the Just Stop Oil people, they were sentenced under the Tories regime, weren't they? I mean, I think it was just slightly afterwards, but the case was during when the Tories were in power, and it's their initiative to actually teach these people a lesson, because they are potentially affecting the bottom line of the oil corporations, which are, of course, the donor class. And so the Tories didn't want to upset them. But now we have a new regime. Let's see how it goes.
Except that Keir Starmer has said some very derogatory things about Just Stop Oil. And also, I mean, they get big corporate funding as well, this present Labour Party. So we'll have to see about that. See what happens. Yeah. All
right, good to talk to you. Thanks a lot, Annie. 0345 6060 973. Tony texts, there is a minority in this country that we should be rioting against. It's the 1% that has the 70% of the country's wealth, the 1% that has 70% of the land, and the 1% that lets the 99% pay 70% of the tax. Wow. Is your head scrambled too?
Yes.
A few too many numbers there, Tony. But I get it. It's more easily comprehended when you see it written down. But in a nutshell, Tony says we want our country back. Yeah, that's right. We do want our country back. From the people who've been handing down vast tracts of land through generations. They haven't earned it at all, and for some mystifying reason, they haven't had to pay inheritance tax, ever. Because, that kind of tax is for the little people, not leprechauns. And as for the rest of it, well, if we just took back what the Qataris own, then that would be a hell of a start, wouldn't it? They own more of London than King, I think. York. Hello, Jan.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I am great, mate.
You remember when the Olympics were on last? You said that the skateboarding was very good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I decided to watch it myself this year.
And
you were right.
Now, there's
two different. How good it was.
Yeah, there's two different types of skateboarding. One's a bit boring, and the other's really exciting. And the boring one is called street, and there's not many tricks, and it's kind of a bit dull. I stopped watching it, but the exciting one is called park, where they fly in the air and spin around and all of that jazz. And
somersaults in the air. How do they do it?
I don't know. And for the most part, fall off, which was kind of surprising. They all kept falling off.
They did, yeah. But it was still good, wasn't it?
I loved it, yeah. I thought it was... And I cannot believe that I liked it and looked forward to watching it again. Skateboarding, because I've always derided it as a sport for any age, let alone people who are the middle-aged people...
Sorry, go on.
The people who are the middle-aged types who practice it at the South Bank in London.
Yeah, you don't class it as a sport, do you?
Well, I do now.
Don't, anyway.
Yeah, watching those people do it, then, it certainly is a sport.
Yeah, and they're fearless, aren't they?
I'll tell you what was also great was climbing. Did you see any of that?
No, I didn't.
How do those people do that? They're like spiders.
I read about it. I didn't see it, though.
There was a lot of tremendous stuff. I thought it was great. The gymnastics were great. I mean, that's about as close to being a monkey as human beings can get.
Yeah,
you know, swinging around them bars.
Yeah. And the way they get on that pommel horse. And I remember when we had one at school, it was a heck of a job trying to get onto the flipping thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you'd run up to it, and then rather than leap over it, you'd sort of collide with it.
That's right,
wouldn't
yeah.
you? Yeah. It would stay still and you'd bounce off.
Awful.
And never mind about the bar. I mean, the bar, that, what do they call it? Do they call it the bar?
You mean the beam?
The plank of wood, yeah, the beam.
The beam. And what about the parallel bars and is it the asymmetric bars?
Yeah, they used to be much closer together. Do you remember, oh, God, her name's just gone completely out of my mind. She was a Russian. Olga Korbut. Yeah, bingo. Yeah. There you are. You see, great minds think alike. Olga Korbut. They used to have those bars close enough together for her to swing from one, hit the other with her stomach, and then rotate around the bar just using her stomach. Yeah, but I think that's probably very, very bad for you, and they stopped them doing that. In much the same way as I think they should stop people hitting each other in the head and calling it sport. It's not.
Boxing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they might be very, very fit, but
what do you think about
being hit in the head is not good for you, Jan.
No, of course not. And what do you think about cricket going to be the next one?
Oh, you are kidding me.
No. 2028, they're going to do cricket in, is it Los Angeles?
Cricket?
Yeah, cricket.
I don't think any team sport should be at the Olympics. None. At all. Not hockey, not football. Tennis should not be an Olympic sport. I mean, what on earth is tennis doing being an Olympic sport? They're supposed to be, I mean, they're not, but there's supposed to be an element of amateur about the Olympics, and the tennis people, they wouldn't get out of bed for less than 10 grand.
Yeah, that blooming Djokovic. I believe he won, didn't he?
I don't know. I'm not remotely interested. No, I'd rather watch the canoeing, frankly.
Would you? Yeah. Oh, no, I don't like that.
Oh, that's too far. Did you see the BMXing, where they all...
No,
where about
see that
five or six of them all go down a track at the same time? Oh, it's excellent.
No, I didn't see that.
Very, very dangerous.
No, I've only seen skateboarding and gymnastics, and that's about it, really.
Well, the next time we speak, I want you to have done at least a couple of sessions on the high bar, Jan.
Oh, God.
Promise me you'll do that. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Thank you for holding. Your call is important to us.
Yes, your call is important to us. Bodmin in Cornwall, and it's a bloke called Malcolm. Malcolm.
Hello, Nick. How are you, sir?
I am great, mate.
Nick, so much to talk about in a short phone call, my friend.
I know.
The Royals, Mercer Tidwell, we got a bit to say about that. The Riots, the Charles and William, I want to speak about them, if you'd allow me.
Mm-hmm.
And you were questioning, what on earth is the Prime Minister doing up at the palace? Well, I think that's very, very important, Nick, because it goes back to a conversation I had with you some months ago, and it was at a point where the Tories were being very rude about the Royals,
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Back up. The Tories are being rude about the royals. Which royals in particular?
Well, they wouldn't allow Charles to go to several, what would be the phrase, jamborees, jollies, whatever you want to call them. But they were important things for the country, which, I'd have gone. I would have done them.
Like what?
In place of Charles. Well, there was one which was a climate thing. There was another one.
I'm sorry, but having a lecture by a man who lives in palaces, castles, houses, cottages, mansions, estates, and halls is just ridiculous. Who wants to hear that?
Well, if it was any old man who lived in any old hall and didn't venture from his hall or do anything with regard to the environment, I would agree with you. But whilst you'll not hear me saying we should have a royal family forever, I don't think that this particular king.
What does he do for the environment apart from shoot it?
Well, I'm not sure he's into all of that stuff, to be honest with you, personally. There might be some who are.
Yes, he does. He shoots birds and probably deer and all of the rest of it. Yeah.
All right. Well,
he loves.
I'm not sure he does.
I think.
I'm not sure. But we're going off the track here, Nick, of what I want to speak about. My point was that he has a philosophy on life, and my point that a number of months back was I thought his philosophy, if you take away who he is, what he is, and his hereditary, he was more in line with a government which is the sort of government we got now than the one we had, right? That's all I want to say.
In what way?
So, well, I think a while ago he was trolling the Tories quite seriously, and you could say, "Oh, come on, man, what are you talking about?" Blah blah blah. But I look into it. I think he was, Nick, and I think that Starmer is wise in that he can see what's happening in the country, and the roots of what's happening in the country lies within the state of mind and the business of the last government. That's what I think. And I think that he's using Charles to point out that suddenly the country has a government which is more in line with its people and the welfare of its people and the sensible running of the nation. And I think he knows that Charles appreciates that what he's got now as the government he's working with at the present time is better than the one he had up until June or whatever it was, July the 4th. That's all I want to say on that one, Nick.
Right.
But on Merthyr...
But you're just guessing. You're making it up. But go on.
No. Well,
of course you are.
No, Nick, look at what I've said. Well, what I said was factual, right? There were a number of events which happened, and from my place in life, which is nowhere near Prince Charles or even Keir Starmer, and when I look upwards at these people, because I'm not on their level, I wish I was, but the point I make is that the king we have is the king we've got. He ain't going anywhere, under Labour or the Tories. But I think he will be able to be happier and support the government we've got now. And the royalists, who are not socialists, by and large, who listen to the king, might just, in the future, not vote for the kind of Tory leader they're about to be given. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with you. But carry on.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So on Merthyr, let's go to Merthyr and Jeff and the dog and duck or whatever he goes for his pint, which if he looks in one direction, he can see England. But if he looks in the other direction, as he's explained to us, he's got a big hole in the ground. Well, yesterday or the day before, there's a piece starting to appear on Apple News about what's actually now starting to happen there, and let's think about it, which Jeff has been trying to point out. And it's that this hole in the ground is now seriously filling up with water, and there are no moves at all being made to do anything about it, either from the Welsh Government, the council in particular, who are in... They're sitting on some funds from the company who run it, but the council are coming under fire because they didn't take anything like the funds from the company in the event of the company going bust to put right what the company did, Nick.
All right.
And the whole thing is starting to stink, in other words. And then
literally
you've got
and
next-
figuratively, yeah.
Yeah, and if you come back then to Boris Johnson and his article in the paper, well, the more he writes, and you said I wouldn't advise anybody to read it. I would. The more people who can read Boris Johnson's articles, the better, because it doesn't take long to read a Boris article to understand that the guy is absolutely bereft of any thought or intellect or idea. So
or really
I would
interest in
recommend
writing
reading
a good article. I mean, it seems to me like he just phones it in, and just pockets the money, knowing that he's got a rock-solid contract. And even if they wanted to, the Mail can't get out of it. For fear of losing face, because they spent all that money on him as a star columnist, and I cannot believe that he's making them back the money, because who cares what that man thinks?
People they speak about the Labour honeymoon. Well, people were saying leading up to the election, it's going to be a very, very short honeymoon. Well, there's no talk of a honeymoon now. In fact, I don't hear any talk of a mismatch in the marriage. I think the people have met up with the government. I think that they're going to be happy with for a long, long time.
Finally, we agree on something. All right, let's end on a moment of concord. Thanks a lot, Malcolm. King Charles unlikely to stop hunting, despite calls for him to ban the raw practice. This is from last year. A Raw commentator has told The Express that it is unlikely the Raw family would phase out hunting, despite criticisms that it is at odds with the King's work in environmentalism. Yeah, he loves the environment. He loves blasting it out of the sky. I can't be bothered with the rest of that. But yeah, they love shooting things. It's part of who they are. Hunting, shooting, fishing. Sue says, you're sounding very left and stereotypical. Thank you, Sue. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
She says it's not about colour and it's not about religion. It's about legal and illegal. Legal and illegal what? Shall I try and fill in the blanks where Sue has left them gaping? Do you mean legal and illegal immigration? Well, the thing about coming here to claim asylum is that there is no such thing as doing it illegally, Sue. But, presumably over the course of the last 14 years of constant discussion about this subject, you will have learnt that already. But maybe not. Russell says, I live in Leytonstone in East London. I live in a tower with 109 flats and there's only 2 white English people in the whole lot of this property. I'm the minority, says Russell. Well, a tower of flats is neither here nor there. We're talking about the country, Russell. Your tower of flats is not a microcosm for the country. I mean, look at the ethnicity of places like Clacton. Let's pick Clacton, shall we? Because that's where Nige got in, putting the fear of the foreigner up the local. Persuaded them that they were going to be invaded. White British people in Clacton make up 93.4% of the population. And the next highest ethnicity is Irish and other white people. So that's 94, 95.1, 96. 96% of the population in Clacton is white. And they are so fearful of non-white faces that they voted for for this bloke.
Nigel Farage is not fit and proper to be in government.
I agree entirely. 96% of the people in Clacton are white. And yet their number one concern is people who aren't white. Ashfield, that's where Lee Anderson is, the other reformist. And it's the exact same thing. 92% are British white. 3.4% is the next biggest ethnicity, are other white. 0.2% Irish. So that is that's another 96%. Whereas if you look at London, I mean, some areas, like that tower block that guy's living in, are majority non-white. It's about 50-50, I think, over London as a whole. And do Londoners rush to vote reform? No, they do not. Because by and large, you aren't frightened of the things that you can already see. You're just frightened of the things that you can't see. And certain oily charlatans play on people's gullibility. And it's a living, essentially. That's it in a nutshell. Playing on people's gullibility is a living. And some people do really well out of it. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
This is LBC. Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Now, wait a minute. I don't like that kind of talk. Now, just stop it. It upsets me.
Will says that we don't have divisive politicians or newspapers in Scotland and had no riots. We have Nigels, but most people ignore them. Oh, you got Nigels up there, have you, Will? 0345 6060 973. You know, in some areas, they're absolutely infested with Nigels. Can you believe that? Colchester. Hello, Judy.
Good evening, Nick. It's nice to hear you sounding really quite well again.
Thanks.
I was quite worried about you, I was.
Yeah, I was.
I'm sure you were.
It's really bizarre, though. I mean, I know that a lot of people have had this, but I caught whatever it was. I think it was a couple of months ago now, and I still haven't got over it. I mean, I've still got crackle in my voice, and it feels like, you know, it feels like I've been yelling for a couple of hours. It's got that sort of roughness to it. But you know me, I never complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Yeah.
No, you never moan, do you? Not about anything at all.
Not me.
Well, I thought I'd ring you because you were talking a little bit about the Olympics when I came up to bed.
Yeah.
And I've been watching it because I do love all the sport. But I have found this year there are so many presenters and there is so much chit-chat in between. It drives me up the wall. And with the athletics, you've got the four of them sitting on, I don't know what it is, but wherever it is, it's up above the stadium, so you can see all the stadium. And there they are, chattering away about this, this, that and the other, holding their yellow microphones. And you've got the crowd are cheering and clapping.
Yeah.
And you think, well, what the flipping heck's going on? There's so much noise, but they carry on talking. You can't hear what they're saying.
You know the reason for that?
No.
The BBC did not buy the rights for total coverage. They've only bought the rights. I think they can only show one thing at a time that's live, and then they have separate rights for the best of clips for later. And I don't know precisely what the makeup of their rights is, but that's the reason why they're talking so much. And I believe they're showing clips from old Olympics, aren't they? Just to make up the. But you know what though, Judy? I haven't watched a single minute of the Olympics on the BBC. I've been watching it on Discovery Plus, which is it's a revelation. It's exactly what you want. They give you all of the sports, and you can pick anyone you like at any time, and you can pick the event, like if you want to see the semi-finals, you can see that. If you want to see the qualifications, you can see that. If you want to see the final, you can see that. The only thing that I miss, though, is that on quite a lot of the events, they don't have any commentary at all.
Oh.
And so you get a bit lost. Like you'll be looking at the gymnastics and you won't know who's last.
No.
And you won't remember how many points each individual has got. So you do need a bit of a guide as to where you are in the event, because quite often I'll be watching, like the floor exercise or something like that, and the last person will get their points, and then off camera somebody will start celebrating. You think, oh, is that it?
Well, I'm glad you said that because I've always watched the Olympics and I've said to one or two people I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. All I've known it hasn't been the same this time.
Yeah.
It just has not been the same.
No.
And that explains it, Nick, because I thought to myself, once upon a time, the long jump or what would be covered in its entirety.
Right.
And then they go backwards and forwards, and then you've got two presenters in the morning on the studio. Then you've got. I didn't mind swimming so much. I think that moves quite a pace, but no, it did. And finally, lastly, before I say goodnight to you, I was watching a very old Lee Evans comedy programme this evening, and one of the sketches he did was exactly what makes me smile. When you've got someone who's just run 10,000 metres or whatever, they have to give the interview. Yes. Or else they've missed out on the gold medal after it. And
how do you feel?
How did you feel? What were you thinking about before you started the race?
Stupid.
And I shout to the telly, what do you think I was flipping thinking about?
Exactly. Yes.
It's infuriating.
I would tell them to go stick it.
Oh, so would I. But but I did enjoy that the wall climbing.
Isn't it amazing? How do they do that?
I don't know. And that young lad that won today, that 19-year-old, Toby Roberts.
Right.
What a star.
And when you look at them doing it from face on, you think, well, that looks really, really difficult because it looks like it just goes straight up and down. But then you look at it from the side, and they're actually defying gravity because the mountain is going away from, or rather towards them, and I just don't know how they do that.
Well, I don't know. I do know his dad he built him a wall in the garden, didn't he, for him to when he decided that. He saw it at 12 years old and he said, that's what I want to do. And he's done it. And he's got a gold medal.
Yeah,
brilliant,
great.
Absolutely brilliant. That's what the Olympics is all about.
All about, yes.
Yeah.
OK, very good work. Thanks a lot, Judy.
Thank you, Nick.
Cheers, my
Bye.
dear. Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, I've been delighting in the coverage that Discovery Plus has got because you can see literally everything. They've got a whole menu up there, and I hope that they keep it for a long time after the games, because there's quite a lot of things that I haven't seen yet. And there's some things that I wouldn't have thought would be worth looking at that really are like BMX racing, where there are about 8 or 9 of them all go down at the same time, and not necessarily that many finish the race. It's just great. And the climbing was amazing. I can't believe that I found that interesting. Basically, anything that's got an Olympic rings attached to it that is not a team sport gets my vote. I'll sit there and watch anything if it has the Olympic rings appended to it. And it's passing at dizzying speed, isn't it? Only got up to a couple of days left. It ends on Sunday, right? Think so. Maybe they'll be able to repurpose all of those fireworks that they couldn't set off because it was raining so much and, blow up half of Paris during the closing ceremony. I wonder if you get your money back, because it must cost millions to put the kind of fireworks in that they had planned, and if they don't go off, then what happens? Because I would imagine it'd be quite a tense job taking them all down again, probably even more so than putting them up, because they don't have much practice in taking them down unused, I would imagine. Anyway, we'll find out when we get there, eh? 0345 6060 973. Belfast, Lucia.
Good morning, Nick.
Hi, how are you going?
I'm good. Tired, but good.
Yeah.
But enjoying the Olympics like you. That's why I rang up.
Yeah.
You were speaking about Olga Corbett earlier on.
Oh, yes.
Do you know that she ended up totally paralysed?
No.
She did.
How come?
Because of all the... Do you not remember the stuff she did?
Yeah, well, that's the reason, I believe, why they moved the what they call them isometric bars now, don't they? They moved them apart so that the gymnast couldn't go around on their stomachs.
That girl went around on everything.
Yeah.
She inspired me. I mean, I was already sports-wise anyway. But she ended, God love her, she ended up totally paralysed.
Well, I did not know that.
Yeah, well, if you could Google her, you might see it, or, well, you might not want to see it. I didn't want to see it, but...
No, I'm quite upset that you told me that now.
I'm sorry.
Well,
It's just you brought her into my mind, and I remember watching her on the TV, and because I was always sporty, and my son, he still has his BMX. My youngest son.
Well, he's been watching the BMX because they've done the same sort of thing as the. I'll tell you what was really good as well as the BMX racing was. Where they did the in the same skate park as the skateboarders, and they fly through the air. Some of the crazy stunts they pull there.
Well, he did skateboarding as well. My life was, and he played ice hockey, and his BMXing, and he still got a BMX.
Right.
And he's in his mid-40s now.
Oh, really?
Yep. And one time my older son, went down to the. We were living in Surrey then, to the Building Society, and he took his bike and he wired it up and all, and safe and sound, he thought. And he came out and the bike was gone. And he came home, but he was under threat of death if he even looked at the BMX. But, later on that week he did. And he got it stolen as well. And my youngest son was demented. And I was ready to kill.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I was telling his youngest son about it, my grandson. And then Michael, because my grandsons are, they're born in Brussels and that, but they speak really good English. But sometimes Michael has to come on and an odd word that Elliot, the youngest one, wouldn't have known what I was saying, even though I can do French. But he said, Mum, I got that. Do you know my BMX? I got it back. I said, what? How did you get it back?
How did he get it back?
He said, to America, and got a new one. He said, I've even got all my badges on it.
Right, so he didn't actually get it back. He just bought another one. Right, that's how you do it. All right, thanks a lot, Lucia. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Will says Starmer has updated the king. Does he not listen to the news? Yeah, well, I would have thought that King Charles would have been able to get all the information he needs from the television set. I would have thought Keir Starmer would be too busy to waste his time having a chit-chat with His Majesty. I mean, what's His Majesty going to do about it? Anyway. Probably illegal to even think that, let alone say it.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Hello, boys.
I'm taking you off the air. I think you're having a breakdown.
Yes, this is probably what a breakdown looks like. Lee texts, 30p Lee and the other 4 Reform UK Limited characters have been kicked out of Westminster offices and are being moved out. They don't seem happy about this. Is that true? Well, I'm just asking questions, that's all. Are they? I mean, they haven't said that they aren't. Why aren't we being told about this? Will says, Starmer has up... Oh, no, I read that one. Paul says, Trump will win. If you'd told me that 2 weeks ago, I would have probably said yes. But now I'm going to say...
No.
No, he looks like a loser to me. A 2-time loser. And all you right-wing MAGA fans are going to be sore upset. They're going to be surprised because they don't listen to any other media. They watch Fox News and they wait for Donald Trump's tweets or whatever he's calling them, Truth Social. How much money has it lost so far? And they're saying that it's a company that's worth billions. Yeah, sure it is, Donny. Sure it is. It's worth billions, like he makes $400 million a year.
I make $400 million a year, so what difference does it make?
Yeah, sure you do. It looks like somebody has deflated that man. He's a great big whining baby, and he's just going to whine and whine till he pukes. Graham says, here we go. The liberal elites hate the poorly educated white working class. These meatheads don't understand right and left wing. Which meatheads? The liberal elites hate the poorly educated white working class. These meatheads don't understand right and left wing. I don't get what you're saying. Who are the meatheads in this equation? Sandra says, that's what bugs me the most about the Tories, the arrogance to not even recognise, let alone accept that they've been rejected by us. So arrogant, aren't they? An example of their arrogance, I just got a vision in my head of that time when Rees-Mogg was lying down on the bench.
My view is the change of leader requires a general election. My view is the change of leader requires a general election. My view is the change of leader requires a general election.
Quars. Yeah, but it didn't, though, did it, Smug? Over and over and over again you changed your leader on us.
Absolutely.
And it was just one stratospheric catastrophe after the next.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
And this guy was a cherry on the top.
This government...
That guy. Integrity. Mr. Integrity. He's just been enjoying a meal out while this country was on fire.
What?
Can you believe that? As a wave of riots hit Britain, ex-minister Fishy Sunak and his wife took refuge in a Beverly Hills restaurant, if you please. The couple, enjoyed a meal at Funk. That's Funke, where a mushroom pizza costs £32. What? The restaurant in a 1930s Art Deco building is frequented by stars such as Jennifer Aniston. And it is in the Michelin Guide. Oh, well, if a company that sells tyres for a living says it's good scran, then count me in. It suggests guests can start with their pillowy focaccia, then savour a plate of tender South Pacific blue prawns in a garlicky salsa verde. Handmade agnolotti is delightful with a creamy filling of taleggio fonduta, finished with a meaty, buttery sugo di... anyway, the food is super duper. Mr. Sunak owns a £5.7 million luxury penthouse several miles away in Santa Monica near Muscle Beach. Yeah, and looking at others lift weights is the closest he's ever got to physical exercise. He's enjoying a 5-week parliamentary break, if you can believe it. This is since being voted out at number 10, and there's been rumours in America that he may move to America, where several Silicon Valley venture capital firms are, quotes, taking a keen interest. Well, you know, why not? He was such a success at running the country, after all. Taking a keen interest. Why? Mr. Sunak studied at Stanford University, where he met his wife, and then he ran a hedge fund. Or maybe it was the other way around. That was the hedge fund he made £100 million betting against a bank that precipitated the economic crash of 2007, which we will still be suffering the effects of for the rest of our lives. Not his life, our lives. He made £100 million. We pay and we pay and we pay. He's going to remain as Tory leader until November, apparently, so he will be diligently helping the good people of Richmond every weekend. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge I'd like to sell you. Fishy Sunak has notably not condemned the boss of Twitter, now known as X, Elon Musk, for his attacks on the UK government during this week's unrest. The ex-PM hosted Elon Musk for a cosy fireside chat last year, which from this vantage point looks a lot like a job application. Please hire me, Mr. Musk. Where else are you going to get that desperate loser energy from? Outside of outside of a meeting with Donald Trump.
Don't be rude.
Desperate loser energy. 0345 6060 973. R-word. Barnett.
Hiya. Hi, Nick.
How you doing?
I'm slightly tired, so bear with me.
Go ahead.
I came to call in about who I believe is most responsible for what's going on in Britain right now, and
David Cameron.
I think this is nonsense.
No.
The answer is generally obvious, but I'd say two specific, not one's an individual and two are organisations. I can't name those organisations, but I'll just say they're right-wing tabloids.
Yes.
Farage being the obvious. I remember Farage saying that he got rid of the BNP as a fighting force. The issue is he absorbed the BNP, and what I think Nigel Farage is able to do particularly well to the detriment of the country is he's able to get some perfectly decent people on his side, whilst also appealing to the rabid racists.
Yeah. Are you all right?
Yes. I probably should have had a coffee before my call, but
you should have had a refreshment. Booze. Carry on.
No worries. The two other organisations that I can't name right now are right-wing tabloids, which generally have that air of respectability. But when you have that mantle, when you have that general level of respectability, people will generally trust you, even when sometimes you bring on some people that are a bit dodgy. And once you normalise those people and bring them into the mainstream, you sort of have a conveyor belt of debauchery that you can allow into the mainstream.
Wow, that sounds great. That sounds like the kind of establishment I would like to frequent. A conveyor belt of debauchery.
Disgusting.
That sounds super. What time's it open?
I think it's open 24/7.
Is it 24/7? Yeah, that's what I would have thought. Yeah, even on Christmas Day, even on Jesus' birthday. You believe that?
Yep. I probably wouldn't have believed it a few years earlier, but some of the columns I've read, some of the particular individuals I've seen,
the stuff you read, I know.
I would look at and I'd say, surely there's no way someone like that can write for what would generally be seen as a respectable tabloid for millions of decent people. And I take another look and it's like, oh dear, they actually are.
Exactly right. You want to put that paper back on the rack and walk swiftly out of the store.
Yeah.
So I don't know which papers you're talking about, but here are some headlines from the Mail online. Oh, not online. It's from their actual front pages. You know, and people were questioning the coverage of the. Thanks a lot, Abbot. Excellent work. People were questioning the contribution that some of these newspapers have made, and the journalists from those newspapers were going into a Victorian fainting fit and clutching their hankies to their chests just at the very idea that they might have had something to do with it. Give me an example, they said. All right. These are all front page headlines. Pretty much the only thing that's on the front page, they're in such massive type. I'll just give you a few because, this is a brief 3-hour show. 4,000 foreign murderers and rapists we can't throw out. Migrant numbers hit new records. Fury over plot to let 1.5 million Turks into Britain. Migrants, how many more can we take? True toll of mass migration on UK life. The swarm on our streets. 1 million more migrants on the way. Migrants spark housing crisis. Britain's broken borders. Foreign workers get 3 in 4 new jobs. And so on, and so on, and so on. Guilty! Guilty, as charged. Oh, it's got nothing to do with us. We're just reporting the facts. Just like Nigel Farage is just asking questions. Right. Jay says, if things didn't go to plan with Starmer Chameleon, he'll only be there for 1 term, and who do you think the people will turn to? if things don't go to plan with Starmer Chameleon. See, I knew that guy earlier on, didn't come up with that Starmer Chameleon. So that's quite cute. But what do you mean by plan? Go to plan. Whose plan? Which plan are you talking about? You mean if Keir Starmer can't undo 14 years of Tory misrule in just a couple of years, he'll only be there for one term, and then we're going to go back to the dark side? Jeremy says, "Yep, it's no longer left versus right; it's reality versus fantasy." Yeah, well, that's Donald Trump all the way. Nobody's interested in facts anymore. We are all about feelings now, baby. 0345 6060 973. Oh, blimey, look at the time. Okay, I'm going to take a short break, then I'll come right back, because if I don't go away, I won't be able to come back again.
This is LBC. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Everything is going extremely well.
Yeah, everything is crashing into each other. 0345 6060 973. It's not my fault. This show was like this when I got here. Shahaf says, Nick, you're right. There are more of us than there are of them. But the problem is that we have jobs and families and duties and mortgages and credit cards to pay, etc. We can't go out and block the riots every week. They can. Yeah, well, see, I think that their interest is going to wane pretty quickly once their mates are inside, with the ruination that comes with that. I mean, you won't be able to get... Your job prospects will diminish rapidly if you've got a prison sentence over you. You won't be able to get a loan. You probably won't be able to get insurance. All of the things that we rely on for life are going to be denied you because you threw a brick through the window of O2 and upgraded your phone for free because you were furious about immigration. I think there's going to be a rapidly dwindling number of people who are going to be doing that. Plus, it's going to be rainy and cold soon, so there's that. Sarah says, it was wonderful to see so many people peacefully protesting against racism and hate in the last few days. It reinforces the fact that the majority of the British public are decent and tolerant, and it makes me proud to be British. Correct, Amundo. On that subject, Shane says, why does the Prime Minister need to update the King? Surely there's a television somewhere in one of those many rooms. He's probably forgotten which room he put it in. Get one of his people to go out and hunt down the television set. It's in one of those rooms. Take some sandwiches though, because there's 800 in this particular palace. It's going to take you a while. Oldbury, hello, Ranjit.
Nick, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Just one little point I want to pick you up on, yeah? You know the guy probably who nicked the mobile phone? He probably won't be able to upgrade it because he's going to register it, right? And I think it might come up as stolen. Yeah. Or he'll have to go into a little Asian man's shop, yeah? Because that's where the most of the shops are, and say, hello, brother, how you doing, mate? You know, can you just do this phone? Because this reminds me, right, you remember Steve Wright, the DJ from Radio 1 and Radio 2? He used to do a True Facts, right? Well, some dumb idiot,
He
right?
called them factoids, did he not?
Factoids, yeah, something like that. If someone went to rob a bank, right, and they said, sorry, mate, we haven't got any cash, but can we give you a check, right? And a few days later, he went to cash it, and it has come on in, son. I don't know how true it was, but that's what I heard.
Right.
On a serious note about these races, I remember watching a few, I'm of a certain age, I remember the late 70s and the early 80s.
Yeah.
On the National Front and everything, right? You know, the National Front, he said, look, I want non-white immigrants and their descendants to leave this country straight away. So he wanted a white country, right? Like
who is he?
The leader of the National Front, Martin Webster, I think he was, Okay. Now, I've never heard this statistic. How many actually white expats live around the globe, right? And if every other country was to turn around and say, right, you're sending Ranjit back to India because his parents were born in India, and I'm going to send John back, who's a white Indian, back to England, what would happen then?
What I find comical is that people say, they're not only they come in over here, but they don't integrate. They don't represent British values. They don't take on the mantle of a British person. Well, that might be because they're not. They may be from Afghanistan or Belgium or Holland or wherever it might be. In much the same way that Britons go to spend their retirement in Spain, and they don't speak Spanish, and they don't do Spanish hours, and they eat and they drink in ye olde English pub in their community, and they have egg and chips, which they select from a menu that they point to a picture of. Nobody integrates and becomes the people of the country that they go to, because that's not who they are. But why is that a bad thing? I mean, if people came from other countries and became British people, then we would not. All we would be eating is beef and carrots all the time, and that's not our national dish. Our national dish is chicken jalfrezi.
That's the funniest part about. I'm gonna. I was born in this country, but my dad took us back to India, and we lived in India for 2 years. And when I come back, I was 9, and I couldn't speak a word of English. Right now, if I never told you what my name was, I don't sound Asian or anything like that. I just sound a guy from the Midlands. Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to tell what colour I was until you actually met me, right? And that's what the disheartening part of it all is. That if I'm walking down the street, people will use the P word to describe me, even though I'm British. I can't be walking around holding my passport because the dumb idiot, right? He ain't going to look. He's just going to throw a brick at me or something like that, right? And you know what? You know when you say all these people came out because good, beat evil, I agree with that. That happened, right? But the thing is, I think, when Keir Starmer suddenly started putting these people in prison, right, it put the fear of God into these people, right? It
made it real. It seemed a lot less like fun.
Yeah, and then you think, the one guy goes, he didn't really know what he's doing. Hang on, you're 59 years old or 60 years old, mate, and you've probably fathered some kids and grandkids or whatever,
no
right?
doubt.
And you don't know what you're doing. And like you said, the best dishes now are curries. So all these people probably go around rioting, right, and at night get together, have a few beers, right, and go for a curry. And they tell us, right, that we smell of curry, right? And how can we smell of curry if you haven't even eaten a curry? And these stereotypical things, right, what an Asian man smells of and how he talks, right, it's a myth. And I'm sorry, but like your callers have said, right, Nigel Farage has just taken the black shirts, right, to another level and just put suits on them. And he, he's the main cause of it because of the way I spoke to you last week, yeah? And that's what he keeps on saying. And when Tom Swarbrick interviewed him, right, he wouldn't answer any questions, because if I was Tom, I would have said, hang on, listen, we'll stay here till tomorrow, but until you answer this question, we're not going to move on.
Well,
right?
from what I saw, Nigel Farage was just cloaking himself in whining victimhood, which is so on brand for him and Trump and all of that lot. All of these tough guys, they just wither at the... I tell you what, if you want a measure of Nigel Farage, it's probably still available on the World Wide Web. This is one of the reasons that he hates James O'Brien so much, is that James O'Brien interviewed Nigel Farage once on this station.
Yeah.
And James O'Brien unpicked Nigel Farage into his constituent molecules and left him a bubbling mess on the ground. It is perfect. It's my favourite political interview, perhaps of all time. Look it up. It's probably still available on an internet near you. James O'Brien versus Nigel Farage.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them. The thing is about Nigel Farage, yeah, and like Rees-Mogg, right? Now, all those people went to all these posh schools, right? You know, under the consumer rights, right? Their parents wasted their money, as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah, I would want my money back. Yeah.
I'd want my money back, because if that's the kind of people they're producing, right? And this thing about the overseas students, Boris Johnson went to India, right, and David Cameron did, begging the Indian government to start sending their overseas students over here. And then they're going on about a carer bringing his wife or her husband or whatever to come here. Hang on, listen, mate, we're beggars now. We can't be choosers, right? Obviously, I'm of Indian heritage, right? There's people, when you go to India and you say, oh, do you ever fancy coming to live in England? They say, what? To get beat up, get spat at.
Yeah.
We can go to Canada, America, New Zealand, Australia. We can go in.
Exactly, yes.
People are going to work in Bahrain, right, from India, right? And in the Middle East, they're saying we feel safer there, right, than we would, say, in certain parts of Europe.
And I totally understand that, yeah.
Yeah, and they don't want to come here. So a doctor, right, gets spat at, and the poor guy's trying to save your life, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know the guy that torched that library. You know, I'd like to sit down in a room with him and ask him, mate, hang on, what was the purpose of you torching a library? Because what you're doing is you're stopping your children having an education, and you're just going to end up being cannon fodder for the Etonians. And that's what these dumbos don't realise, what's happening to them. And, I watch it. You know, the ones that were in Tamworth taking their kids, right, to a fireworks party when they're trying to burn a hotel. What's that about? What's that about? Seriously.
All right, okay. No, we're going to take a breath now.
Yeah, I'm being refreshed.
And calm. All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Ranjit. Got to go. Yeah, if people came here and just integrated and became British and took on all of our British customs, then we wouldn't have half of the food that we particularly like. In fact, most of the food that we like. What food is primarily on our minds when we go out to eat? Or you stumble out of the pub late at night and you want something tasty and delicious. We want curry, pizza, hamburgers, and kebabs. None of those things would exist in this country without immigrants. And neither would the NHS. But, you know, let's not... don't get me started on that. Sam says, for me, Labour getting in is like waking up from 14 years of a nightmare. I still sometimes can't quite believe it's actually true. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. It's almost as though if you stop paying attention, someone's going to take it away from you. Yeah, I know. Says, the only thing I feel sad about is that the children that have had to grow up in Tory Britain, all the cuts and the poverty would have caused a lot of damage to some of them. I wish we could fix that. It's a shame it took the people of this country so long to realise how terrible it was. Exactly. And Johnny says, Trump, Farage, Sunak, where's spit and image when you need it? Didn't they I think they tried to bring spitting image back, didn't they? But I you know what? I didn't see I saw almost none of it. I saw a little bit of one, and I thought, I think it suffered from the same thing that British comedy suffers from generally. It's that they don't recruit the staff. And American comedy, the big ones like Cheers, Friends, Frasier, those ones. They do 22 shows a year for 10 years running. Now, there's absolutely no way that you could do that with one writer. It's impossible. I mean, look at John Oliver. He does a show that's 40 minutes long. It's once a week. It's about the news. And he's got 12 writers. That's what they do in America. They throw people at it. In this country, we got one, maybe two writers of comedies, and that's why they're all out of laughs after 6 episodes. And I think that was the problem there. They just refused to spend the money getting the writers in. Maybe we just don't have comic talent in this country. I find that hard to believe, but maybe all the comic talent want to be stars rather than writers. That might be the it of it. And Aristo says, our once beautiful country would be truly beautiful if Nigel, well, I'll say Farage, it's not quite what he's written there. There's an extra T in there. It would be truly beautiful if Nigel Farage went to live somewhere else. Yes, I want our country back from a lot of the people that I've been looking at on the TV screen. I would rather swap all of those people yelling, I want my country back, with people who have come here and are actually making a positive contribution to this country. Because it looks like all of those people who are yelling, I want my country back, aren't making a positive contribution at all. In fact, they're dragging the rest of us down. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 12:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
I'm not a big fan of his brain.
Simon says, the football season starts next week, keeping the hooligans busy. Really? Next week? Oh, I don't think I'm ready for it yet. It seems too autumnal, doesn't it? I think August is too early. They barely get to catch their breath, and then they're doing it again. Keith says, due to the disdain that you have shown to the monarchy, unfortunately, I'm going to have to recall my recommendation I sent for you to receive a shiny badge with a pin for services to broadcasting. You've messed up. You could have had a day in Buckingham Palace Garden being waved at by sausage fingers and his mistress. I'm not sure that's how the palace would wish him to be described, Keith. I don't know, but I'm just asking the question. Heston. Isaac.
Nick.
Yes, sir.
Right. Hello. Right. Three things.
Couple of
summary,
3 things. Yes.
Let's get down to business.
Right.
Number one. Simon has stolen my thunder because number one is the football season started last night and the Premiership starts next week, so all the rioters can go back to their clubs and fight each other, right?
There hasn't really been that much of that about, though, has there?
What's that?
You know, football hooliganism. It's not really a thing anymore.
Well, it is in pockets, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know,
every now and again. But then so's your local pub in pockets.
Yeah, okay, right. Number two, right, the problem with the UK is the 1% of greedy capitalists, such as bankers, private equity firms, hedge funds, and the large conservative government, etc., getting the wealth generated by the masses, then hiding it in tax havens in the Caribbean, Channel Islands, and here in the UK.
Yes.
Right.
Isaac has just nutshelled it for us. Correctamundo.
Okay, and to finish off with that one, with number two, benefiting all the wealth for themselves and not for the nation at large in the world's sixth biggest economy.
Biggest economy, yeah. We've got children going hungry, and almost all of the wealth that has been created since the 1970s has gone to the top 1% of the population, yeah.
That's right. And the final paragraph of number two, sorry about this, they want more wealth, more power, giving themselves absolute wealth and absolute power, while the rest of us go to buggery.
Yes.
There you go.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, number three. Now, I'm a Labour man. I've voted Labour all my life, and I'm really happy that they got it. You know, it's a church-like experience, right?
Yes.
But
yeah.
But I have a message for our new wonderful female chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Okay.
Go on.
She mentioned something about a Canadian-style pension idea for the UK, right? Now, what I suggest she does is try and get back UK Water from a Canadian pension fund.
Oh, right.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you. I'll run through an example. Right, Ontario Teachers Pension Plan owns 27% of Northumbrian Water Group PLC.
Yeah.
Okay, which sells its water to about 4.4 million customers in England. Okay, well, this is last year. They posted pre-tax profits of £297 million.
What?
Up from 272 million. Oh, sorry, dollars. Pardon, dollars.
Yeah, dollars.
From the year before. Okay. In fact, there's a lot more. There's a lot more to read, but I got that information from a website called Canadians.org. The Council of Canadians, right?
Right.
Plus,
well, if Canadians.org don't know everything there is to know about Canadians, I don't know what does.
Yeah, and there's a little bit more. Shall I read it, or do you want to, or shall I end it?
It depends. Is it interesting, and does it take a long time?
No, it won't. Okay, I'll speed through it. Okay. Bloomberg rhetoric.
Oh, and there it goes. He just forgot himself for a moment there. He tripped over his face and then expressed himself in builder's language.
Disgusting.
Can you believe that? On this family show. But at least we got rid of him quickly. But we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate all your efforts. This says, Johnson has written an article in the Telegraph today. Keir is deaf to immigration concerns. Why does he think anybody is listening to him? I have no idea.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
How is it that Boris Johnson, that catastrophic failure of a Prime Minister and of a human being, let's face it, how does he have the nerve to keep telling us about his opinions? To degrade the reputation of others. He is
the great big greedy nincompoop.
He's a great big greedy nincompoop. And how, by the way, is the Mail allowing him to write an article in the Telegraph, if that is indeed what has happened? Jay says, so it's the Tories that's to blame for the sentence given to the Just Stop All protesters. Nothing to do with the protesters themselves, then. Thank you for informing me, says Jay. You're welcome. Yes, Jay, it was. Stopping traffic, it does not constitute a crime so serious as to put you inside for 5 years. It just doesn't. It's the Tories who were trying to send a message to people who were impacting oil companies' profitability. That's what happened there. They were impacting the profitability of the donor class. Andrew texts, I think a new feature of every Olympics should be what new sports have been added. Even if there's too many games to be televised, the Olympics should keep expanding the definition of sport. Well, they do that every time. A new feature of every Olympics should be what new sports they've added. Well, they do make a feature of it by adding the sports. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, some of the sports, they should not be in the Olympics. Football, for instance. Hockey, no. Basketball, I don't think so. Any team sport should not be a part of the Olympics, with the possible exception of the the relay race. I mean, I guess you could call that a team sport, but not really. Other than that, no. And furthermore... No. No team sports. And no tennis. It's all just too preposterously silly. And golf. Golf is an Olympic sport. What? Can you believe that? I mean, for a start, it's not even a sport. It's a pastime. Don't get me started on golf. Carl says, did you see the breakdancing gold medal playoff tonight? No, I haven't seen any of that. but I'm hoping that Discovery Plus keeps it all online for, a good long while so I can catch up. 0345 6060 973. Luton, Adam.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, thanks.
So good. And actually, quick point. Did you hear GB News was upset that they are no longer getting any of their questions answered re the riots?
Yes.
I remember the last time I called you, I'd mentioned that I hope that they get boycotted. And now I've heard someone say, we've put our questions to Labour, but they don't seem to talk to us. And I thought I was quite happy.
And the government isn't sending any of its politicians to be grilled by us. Yeah, I know.
Amen. Breitbart next. And so just my quick point was that regarding Trump's little rant this week was really base, and Kamala automatically put out just a list of responses, line by line, essentially. And it's quite funny if you have time to read it. She literally just goes through every mistruth and just has a response to each direct point with no context, because when you read them together, I suppose it's like her form of fact-checking. It makes sense. But there was a point where she said Trump seemingly doesn't seem to know the difference between an asylum seeker and a mental asylum. And I mean, that was just like pretty worrying.
I know. He digs himself in deeper with every syllable that drops from his lips. And he does it because nothing he has done in his life up to this point has had any negative consequences for Donald Trump. He just gets away with everything. He's the luckiest person that has probably ever lived. He's fallen into being the president of the United States of America, for crying out loud, and billionaires are just throwing hundreds of millions of dollars in his direction in order that they can get what they want. Because he's basically selling America to the highest bidder. It's absolutely incredible what's happening. I'll have a room full of oil executives, and he'll say, give me $1 billion, $1 billion, and I'll give you everything you want. And
But did you hear?
Go on.
Did you hear the little ad-libs that he put at the end of it? Because when he said, yeah, the asylum seekers are coming over the border, I don't know if you know what an asylum seeker is, but that's a mental health on steroids. I thought, like, what? He's so politically incorrect. It's unbelievable. But when he said that little ad-lib, I just thought, this could be really funny if it wasn't our real life. That's the leader of the free world, America. Go,
Well, yes. Well, yes. But we have turned a corner. And whereas before we were sort of resigned to him winning, now I can't conceive of him winning now. I cannot conceive of an entire country that is going to look at Kamala Harris and this Walls guy that she's picked as her running
he's amazing, isn't he? Did you hear his speech? It was really quite electric.
I love everything. I love everything about him and her. I didn't really know anything about her other than that she wasn't that popular as a vice president. But talk about hitting the ground running. I've never seen anything like it. And now Donald Trump's complaining about the size of his crowd again. He's back to that.
Yeah, comparing his crowd to Martin Luther King. But regarding this Tim Walz guy, they call him the Midwest Dad, and they said that he reminds the American people of the guy from Home Improvement. You know, that nostalgic.
Yes.
Guy who can do like.
Yeah, it's like he's just walked out of he's walked out of a Norman Rockwell painting.
Oh, isn't it just? Let's see if America does good though, because they do seem to habitually disappoint the rest of the world.
So we are looking at you, America. Don't think that we don't have our eye on you. All right, thanks a lot, Adam. Yeah, there was somebody tweeted the thing about the forthcoming election in America, and it was something of the order of America now has the choice of the fun auntie with the kindly granddad, or the convict and your weird uncle. That's about right. That's about right. I mean, that J.D. Vance guy, I don't have time to talk about him tonight. I've just sort of mentioned the American thing in passing, but I'll talk about it more tomorrow, because that's just a revelation. What's happening over there is just extraordinary. And I can feel the positive vibes from 3,000 miles away, can't you? Ever since Joe Biden dropped out, it's like this wave of positivity has just shot around the planet like a tsunami wave. And it wasn't too long ago that we were thinking, well, France is going to have a right-wing like a far right-wing government, France. That's so near you can see it from here. And we thought we were going to be subsumed by far-right riots, and Nigel Farage was going to be running the country, pretty much. I mean, this is the kind of thing that people were, imagining, a dystopian future. And neither of those two things happened. France pulled back from the precipice of darkness and moved back into the light. And so did we. I was saying this last weekend to people who were calling me up, full of, they were petrified, full of dread and foreboding about what was to happen this week because, the forces of evil were going to run amok and they were going to take over. And we felt they were going to take over because they shout so loud. There just seems to be so many of them. It's like if you live in a quiet community, then the people who are doing all the shouting, and they've got the loud music on late at night, and they throw endless parties, and they throw bottles in the backyard and all the rest of it. They ruin it for everybody. And somebody who is going through that neighbourhood might think, God, we don't want to live here. But it's just one family who do that and ruin it for everybody else. But they're not the majority. There's more of us than there are of them. And I said that over and over last week. And on Wednesday, the good people of this country came out and demonstrated that fact. Wasn't it great? Loved it. Loved it. So, let's not get carried away. I think that just when you thought that everything was going to go bad, things have taken a massive turn. We defeated the forces of evil in this country.
This government
is not this government anymore. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
We are running late. Let's have a call in Brighton. Paul.
Hello?
Paul.
Oh, hello. Yeah. I think these protests are probably just going to carry on because they're not addressing the problems behind them.
Well, it seems like they fizzled out already.
Yeah, but they just carry on. I mean, I think the counter-protesters were just...
But it seems to have fizzled out already.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for now. But they'll just restart. I mean, I think the counter-protesters were just a ragtag rabble of Palestinian protesters and migrants, basically.
Really?
There's so many migrants in the country now that...
That's not what I saw. I didn't see a ragtag group of Palestinians and migrants coming out to show their face to the fascists.
Yeah, but it's the Palestine marchers, isn't it? It's, they're so well organised now, doing the protest every week that... they could easily turn up on Wednesday and stifle the protests, the protests against migration.
So you're saying that the people who are protesting against the war in Gaza are protesting so much that they stayed there a whole day and were still protesting the next day when the far right-wing protesters came up and then
but
they
could easily turn up for Wednesday's protest and... stifle the will of the British people. So,
which is the will of the British people?
Yeah. Well, it's ending out-of-control mass migration.
And you say that is the will of the British people because?
Well, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. That's what all British people want. I mean, they don't want uncontrolled migration. I mean, another 5 million people in 10 years. That's what we're going to have, probably.
Right, but you seem to be saying a lot of things, and you're certain of it, but it sounds to me like you're just making it all up.
That's the way it's going. We've had, how many this year? It's about 500, 600,000 net migration. So in 10 years' time, it's another 5 million. So,
well, only if it goes on at the same rate, but you think that all British people want an end to migration...
Not migration, out of control mass migration.
But it's not out of control, is it? Because your Conservative government gave visas to 1 million people. What people...
yeah, well, they've obviously messed it all up. But, I mean, Labour don't have the answers anyway. I mean, Labour have disappeared, and...
they've disappeared.
They're desperately trying to find money to, bankroll any policies they come up with.
The Labour Party have disappeared. What do you mean by that?
Well, yeah, there's sort of... Starmer was pretty quiet at the beginning of these protests and riots, so he was pretty quiet.
I saw him on TV talking.
Yeah, but he wasn't there right at the beginning. He sort of... And he's not open to questioning by anyone. He's sort of hidden away. And all the other ministers have... they basically adopted a hard line, but they're ignoring the issues behind the protest, basically. They're not really addressing those issues. They just labelled all the people as protesters as, far right and extremists.
What would you describe somebody who's got a swastika tattoo?
Yeah, well, I mean, you might have individuals, but that's not the most of them, is it? Not most of the people there.
Well, it kind of looked like it to me. I mean, I didn't see many people who weren't, throwing bricks and pushing lit bins.
But protests
going
serve
up to the police.
No, riots serve a purpose over the years. You look at the Brixton riots, Croydon riots, the Wood Green riots in London. In 1977, there was a riot in Wood Green. National Front march. There was a protest against that National Front riot, and there was a riot from that. And then out of that, they built the West Indian Cultural Centre in Wood Green. Right, so that was built out of that. Riots do serve a purpose.
No, protests serve a purpose. Riots don't.
Yeah, well, they can do. They raise the issues of what's going on in the country.
If you can only raise the issue in a country by rioting, then I think you've already lost the argument.
Yeah, well...
What's that noise?
What about the other riots? The Brixton riots and those riots?
What is that? What is that noise?
What purpose do they serve?
What is that noise?
No, it's just a reminder in another phone, so, yeah. They do serve a purpose, don't they? You have the Scarman inquiry.
To say that they serve a purpose implies that there's some sort of thinking behind them, but there isn't. There's an explosion a riot is an explosion of violence.
They're organic, aren't they? They just happen.
Yeah, but that's like saying if somebody upsets me in a pub and I punch them in the face, it serves a purpose.
No.
Well, it stops them being annoying. So
they're a reaction to what's happening in the country.
No, they're a reaction to what they've been led to believe by people who know better that is the reason that their lives aren't going anywhere. That's what's happened. People's lives aren't going anywhere because, perfectly simple, that the wealth that has been created by all of us has been taken from us. There's no other way of putting it. They've picked our pockets, taken the wages that we should be earning, because if in America, if wages had gone up at the same rate as wealth, then people on average income would be earning twice as much as they are now. And people in America earn twice as much as we do. So imagine how much better off we would be. In order to distract you from that truth, people who know better, who know the truth, are trying to persuade you with lies, which is that it's not the fault of the people who own the means of production. It's not the fault of billionaires in the top 0.01% of the country who have actually taken all the wealth. And the evidence for that is the number of billionaires that have been created in the last, since 2007, the last economic crash in 2007. And particularly through COVID, ever more fantastically rich people have got ever more spectacularly richer. And all the rest of us are just scrabbling around in the dust trying to get a crumb. That's the reason people are annoyed. But the people who have made that happen don't want you to blame them. Of course they don't. They want you to blame somebody else, an easily identifiable minority. And to just enough people, let's say 14%, it's an easy sell. A simple answer to a complicated problem. If you've ever been ill, Paul, and you've ever gone to the NHS, who have you been treated by? I'm going to bet not a Brit. I'll just go out on a limb, and I'll guess not a Brit. Bet I'm right. So be careful what you wish for. The other side is that people who come here to make a life for themselves work more than we do, pay taxes more than we do, and take fewer benefits than we do, on average. So if we really want to even up the numbers, then there's a lot of people who I've been watching on my TV sets with bricks in their hands who we could lose in favour of the people who are coming here who actually want to contribute. That would be... I mean, just because you were born here doesn't make you an upstanding citizen. Maybe we should just... maybe we should get rid of the people who aren't upstanding citizens. I believe Rwanda is lovely at this time of year. 03... I don't know why I'm giving the number out, because that's me done. Thanks for all the texts, particularly the ones I didn't read. I'll do them tonight. If you missed any of tonight's show, you can listen back on catch-up on Global Player. We put the Friday and Saturday night shows up the internet as a podcast, exclusive to Global Player. It's called Nick Abbot, The Whole Show Podcast. If you haven't got Global Player, it's free. Get it from your App Store or globalplayer.com. I'll be back tonight at 10 o'clock, coming up at 4, Ollie Dugmore. But first, it's Clyde Ball. 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 First.
In the pulse of the night, a love ignites, burning bright. No escape, no retreat. In this madness, hearts beat. Through the chaos, we collide. A wild passion we can't hide. Lost in moments, lost in time. In this frenzy so sublime. Endless frenzy, no way out. In this love we twin.